I think to myself, that's when we've gone too far, is when your kid can't occupy themselves and or know the respect of being at a table. And we've taught them that because we're the ones that are on our phone because we need to numb out. Like, let's face it, right? Like, life is hard.
Welcome to the Business of Parenting podcast. Tune in as we discuss the principles of successful parenting as a business professional. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me on another episode of BOP, Business of Parenting Podcast, where I get to talk about anything I want to talk about when it comes to parenting. So if you don't like it, you can turn it off. No, I'm just kidding. Don't turn it off. I have an amazing guest with me today. I have the infamous, the one and only, Katie Mars. Katie, what's up?
Oh my gosh, infamous and one and only? Holy, no, that's a lot to live up to. What's up? Gosh,
What's up?
Everything and nothing.
Everything and nothing, right?
All in between, all the craziness in between.
Well, it was cool. It was cool to see you at Las Vegas. Like, we got to, it was very brief.
You're passing in the hallway?
We're like, hi.
Time for a quick hug and then see you later.
Exactly.
Yes.
But it
that
feels
was
like
awesome to be back at conferences.
Right? Like, was it the weirdest thing? Like, no mask. I wasn't doing one of these, right?
I know. To see a smile, it was amazing.
It was great. But hey, thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited just to have some just fun, real, just authentic, conversations.
I don't know how else to be, so here we go.
That's right. Neither one of us are experts, but hey, I know for myself, I'm an expert at making mistakes, and that's just kind of feel like how we learn. That's how I learn in business. That's definitely how I learn in parenting. So I'm so excited to have this conversation. But before we kind of kick off our talking points today, I'd love to just kind of find out a little bit about your family and of course your business, and then we'll get into it.
Okay, well, currently I have 7 kids. Yeah, we're the Brady Bunch. So I have 3 of my own, and my fiance has 4. And we live in 3 different countries. So our parenting style and just the way we live life is vastly different. The whole ideology of work-life parent balance doesn't really exist in my world. I gotta be real.
Yeah, man.
It is there is no such thing. I'm always on an airplane, living out of a suitcase, taking calls as I run to grab my car or an Uber, and then hugging my kids super tight as the moment I see them. Try to give them their quality time, but then, right back at it the next morning. So it's our and I help obviously parent my beautiful bonus children that live in a different country. So not only am I parenting my kids when I'm with them, I'm parenting my 4 others when I am with my kids, but in a separate country, and then vice versa when I'm not with my kids and I'm with them. So it's never ending. We own a few businesses, and we work together and partner in those. And so that's always interesting when you work with your to-be husband. And we love to fly fish, so we love the beach. So we are on the beach with our toes in the sand, hooking fish and having tight lines as much as we possibly can. So that, in a nutshell, is our world.
That is a world. That's absolutely awesome. No, what's the age group? I'm just kind of curious. 7 of them, man. You must have a mix.
24 to 8.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've got 2 out of the house. 1 just left the house, so 3. So we've got a 15-year-old that's still in the house with us, 11-year-old twins, and an 8-year-old.
Twins. You got twins too.
I have the twins. So I have the 11-year-old twins and the 8-year-old. Yeah.
It is definitely much so the Brady Bunch at your place.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And you know what? It's balancing that much and business all at the same time. It doesn't necessarily surprise me that it kind of sounds like that there's not necessarily a defined line maybe for you. That it's more of a blurred line. Is that you kind of bring everything together, because I don't know how.
Oh yeah. Like our daughter, our 18-year-old daughter works, we own a dealership. She works at the dealership.
Wow.
So I'm always talking to her, not necessarily about, hey, how are you doing? Checking in. I mean, we do a check-in every day, but I talk to her about business. So I'm teaching her about social media and marketing, and she's helping and working at the dealership, and she's really like one of our best employees. So it's awesome. So when you say everything's sort of blurred, it really, really is. We work with our oldest. He's 24 and he's on scholarship. I'm so proud of him and he's playing college ball, and he's phenomenal and smart, but he also he's an entrepreneur. He's trying to, run his own business. So I often, when we're talking about what's his next move, and Katie, what do you think about this? And Dad, what do you think I should do about that? And how do I get ahead? And so our lines are always really blurred, because that's how we sort of live our life, and even our businesses. We are we're us. There's nothing. I don't know how to be fake, right? So
no, Katie, I've we spent some time together, and it was probably about 30 seconds I could realize, this is just you. This is not a persona, and you're probably honestly, you're probably too damn busy to even just put a persona on in the first place. I mean, that takes work.
You know what? It just never works. That's the thing.
Works.
It never works. It never works with your family. It doesn't work with business. People eventually see right through it, and they see through it because you get exhausted of playing a role.
Yes.
So you just need to be honest. Like I've said from the beginning, oh my gosh, if I, and my kids will listen to this sometime, I'm sure. But I always said, if I could go back and choose, I probably wouldn't have had kids. And the type of mother that I am right now, I am a quality mom, not a quantity mom. And I've always been that, because I've always traveled for business, and I've always been on the go, and I've always been very ambitious. And so, but when I'm with my kids, I'm with my kids, even if it's only 1 hour a day. They say, 1 hour of phones away and, playing a board game on the floor, or snuggling and watching a movie, or baking something together is far more productive and more impactful to your children than going to a restaurant and having family time, as the example, we were just chatting about, and being on your phone. That stuff doesn't really count to them. So I see myself as quality mom, not quantity mom.
I'm with you. And I feel like I kind of fall into a similar category as a father, right? Like, and I think this is like a perfect segue actually kind of into our first topic today, right? Because, we were talking a little bit, before we started recording, how I was just recently in a restaurant and just kind of looking around, and like I said, about 60% of the kids were staring at a device like this. And, probably a very similar number of adults were doing the exact same thing. So that's kind of our first topic, is like parenting with distractions. I mean, we're just in a society now that we're just being hit from every single place. I mean, business is like, I would just think even like my business itself, right? This is not a 9-to-5 thing. Business is going on all the time, so it's like you have distractions from there, then you have distractions from social media. But I just love to kind of get your take of how do we kind of maintain, I guess, a linear, like just kind of flow of parenting.
I'll give you two examples. So my son disrespected me a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago. And I took away, and this is my 11-year-old's lifeline, right? So I took away his phone. I took away his computer, so he can't play games, can't do anything. Plus he has to do all the dishes, take out the garbage, all the things. He couldn't even watch TV, right? Like he disrespected me to no end. And so I take that away. And then he learned his lesson, at least I'd like to think. But then he messages me about a week before I'm coming to do my parenting time with them. It's my time with the kids. And he says, "Mommy, I promise I learned my lesson, but I really would like to have my phone back. I don't need to play video games. I don't even need to watch TV. But the only way I can communicate with my friends and have social life is through my phone." And I'm thinking to myself, wow, it's so true. Like when I was a kid, I went outside and played with my friends, right? Like I just went down the street, knocked on the door, and if someone was home, that's what I did. Nowadays, kids, they need that device. They need to, that's a social arm for them. That's their arm to the social world. Exactly. So it's really hard to maintain a balance. But then yesterday, for example, I'll do things like, so I gave him his phone back, by the way. I thanked him for being so honest, and I truly believed him. I gave him his phone back. And I said, no games. So what he did is, because he didn't trust himself, he deleted all of his games off his phone so that he wouldn't play on his phone. But yesterday my girls and I went to watch him play hockey, and I said, no phones. I'm like, let's just go enjoy your brother. You don't need your phone. And so I
like
work
that.
to try to balance it a little bit with the knowledge that it is their lifeline, right? It's really hard because we don't understand it. We didn't grow up that way, but it is their lifeline. So I hate using the word balance because it doesn't exist. And I'm totally guilty of those screens being a babysitter too, right? Like, I mean, I don't want any parent here thinking, oh, yeah, right, she seems perfect, because that's another thing we were talking about. So listen, I'm not perfect at all when it comes to parenting. I mean, I definitely not. But I do try to pick the appropriate moments to allow them to have that social arm, and then bring them back in so they can realize what is really important, you know, and you know, watching him play and supporting him is far more important than texting your friend or Snapchatting or whatever the heck they do now.
But it's being intentional. You know, I mean, I think about like, what was one of the biggest pivotal moments in my business was when I stopped letting the business kind of manage me or run me, you know, and I started kind of, I was now running the business versus the business running me. And to do that, to have that shift, I had to be intentional with my time because I was letting the business define my time. And, you know, that was also definitely during the time period that I know we talk about this work-life balance, and we're going to get into that topic, but there was no such thing of that happening, all right? Because I was letting the business dictate, all right, what my day looked like. And once I started becoming intentional with my time and how I was using it through my business day, that was a big mind shift. And I thought about that, and I was like, you know what? That's what I need to start doing, you know, at home. And very similar to kind of what you did. You went to the hockey game, you intentionally left the phones behind so that you can intentionally be in that moment at the game, supporting your son. And that's, I think there's just a monster correlation there, you know, for people out there who are successful in business and understand that intentionality. And that's what it takes to do that. You know, we're talking about the restaurant things because I think that's so easy. I'm so guilty of it, right? I'm so guilty of going to the restaurant and I'm just like, here.
So I was in on Mother's Day, I was in Mexico, and we were fishing. So we're staying at this beautiful little resort in La Ventana in Baja. And Thane and I are sitting there having a dinner, and a parent has their kid on an iPad. Now we've got really cool like music going on. It's a cool vibe. It's like very yogi zen resort. And the music or the sound from their iPad drowned out the music and the vibe of the resort. And so I think to myself, like, and there's parents talking over the music, so they're really loud, right? So I think to myself, you know, that's when you know we've gone too far, is when your kid can't occupy themselves and or know the respect of being at a table. And we've taught them that because we're the ones that are on our phone because we need to numb out. Like, let's face it, right? Like, life is hard. Not only is work hard, parenting's hard. We're moving at lightning speed these days. We have our own stressors to deal with. There's no marriage that is perfect. There's always family issues one way or another. So if anybody wants to say my life is grand, sure. I mean, I guess we should all be grateful for what we have, but nobody's life is perfect. Nobody is perfect. And so what we've done with social media and our phones is we've allowed it to be a numbing outlet, right? So, well, shoot, we aren't going to drink any more than we drink because the pandemic took us over the edge with that. So now we're just we're going to numb out on the phone, and we're going to teach our kids to do the same, and that's okay. And then all of a sudden your social skills are gone. You don't know how to have a conversation anymore. You're not focusing on anybody. So I again, there's no wrong way or right way to parent because we're all doing our best.
But I think what it is,
I'm not preaching because I'm guilty of it too.
I totally get it, 100%. But it's about finding those hacks, right? It's about finding those hacks. It's no different than in business, right? I mean, you know, look, I've had the opportunity to do over 500 podcasts, which has given me, you know, the opportunity to talk with some incredibly successful individuals. And the one thing that I've found, you know, as a consistent trait with a lot of these successful individuals, both in their personal life and in their business life, and sometimes not so much, you know, but is this ability to find these hacks, you know? So it's like you know, we try to keep a deck of cards in the glove box of our truck. Okay, so that when we do go into a restaurant, and we don't do this all the time, but we, it's there, and I need to probably do it on a more regular basis. I'll take the deck of cards and I'll bring it into the restaurant with me.
Yeah.
And my boys are 7 and 8, so they started playing the game of war like very young, and this is a game they can play. They can just shuffle it, they can play, and they can kind of be in that. They can be in that moment. But it's you have to hack it anymore because things are happening at such a fast pace. Is that it's those little tiny hacks that make a big difference, which is a perfect segue into our next topic, because we mentioned a little bit earlier about this work-life balance. I need like an echo. Guys,
that makes you want to like
cringe, right? It makes you want to cringe. Like, I'm just like,
what is that?
What the hell is that?
I just feel like telling every parent and business person out there that just like, don't be so hard on yourself. And I'm at fault for being so hard on myself of trying to have balance. But that stuff does not exist, period. It just doesn't. And so the moment we can take that pressure off ourselves, the moment you talk about those hacks, we can start seeing a little more clearly, right? When we're not in like self-preservation mode, trying to be everything to everyone, all of a sudden you can be a little calm and you can see clearly, right? When you're hijacked and you're running on emotional, an emotional drive with your limbic brain, and you're not thinking with your prefrontal cortex, you're not thinking with logic, there's no way that that you can find those hacks or slow down enough to say, shoot, I'm going to pat myself on the back. I'm actually doing okay. We are in survival mode these days. So work-life balance is, I don't know, it's something we can't even ask ourselves to live up to. I mean, it's...
Well, I think there's this visual of this balance, that there's this scale, right? Of the, and the scale has to be kind of...
Work 40 hours, be an amazing parent, take them to every sport, somehow in there, eat healthy, go to the gym, be mindful, and I don't know that I can talk about this, but it's real. Make sure you give your partner enough sex so they're 100%. Happy and your marriage thrives, and make sure you go on date nights, and make sure, like, oh, come on, we are one person.
There's no way to keep that kind of scale. So so I find when I think of like work-life balance, like I do think that there's some truth to the statement, but I just think this visual of you have to maintain equal parts is kind of ridiculous. So almost the word balance almost needs to
be for everybody, right? So everybody's family unit runs differently, and my family unit is not the same as your family unit. I mean, my family unit consists of 3 countries, 3 different homes in 3 countries with 7 kids, an ex-husband, a soon-to-be husband, and his ex-wife, whom I'm really good friends with, and I communicate to parent her children. Like, everybody's world is different, and so we shouldn't be looking into or at and judging ourselves based on how other people's balances are, because we're all just doing our best.
Well, I like that you said that, because the balance is really kind of my balance. It's not the society's standard of balance, but it's my balance. And I find, for me to be balanced, that, I carve out, those 2 hours a night where I'm just, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. It's actually kind of cool. I schedule it, so it's great because the phone actually does it automatic, which is the best thing ever, right? And I just get intentional. It's those Friday morning breakfasts where I take them out one at a time, and I do that. And it's not 40 hours. I will be the first one to admit I do not spend 40 hours a week with my kids.
I listen, and people think so I see my kids, like my kids are a product of, there's divorce. And so our schedule is so wacky, and they're like, well, do you really see your kids half the time? I'm like, yeah, but we do it differently. So I'm a speaker, and if I travel the world a lot, and so I don't want to take them out of school. So I keep them here. I see them once a month, basically, during school years, but then all summer long and every break and everything else, I'm with them wholeheartedly. So it's still 50-50, just done differently, but that's our balance.
Yes.
And I don't want to feel bad about that. That doesn't make me a bad mom. It doesn't make me terrible, and I'm not there for my kids, because guess what? When they need me or when they need something, they still don't go to their dad. They call me, right? Even when I'm in a different country. So they feel the love. And I think that's the most important thing, is at least what I'm learning, is if your kids feel whole and they feel loved, and they know if they trip and they fall, they can come to you, then they need to just let them free, have some agency. The only way for them to figure out life is to stumble through life. And so I stumbled a ton through life, and that's the only way, and I still don't have it figured out, but I'm doing my best. And our balance isn't balance. If anybody was an outsider looking in, I mean, I get it all the time. I get judgment as a mom. You're never there. Why you've abandoned your kids. I get all of the judgment, but no, I haven't, because it works for us.
Well, yes. I mean, look, I find the balance is not necessarily my balance, but as much as my kids' balance. And I realize that all three of mine are different. You have 7. I can't imagine how to maintain. So
I only personally have 3, but I love the other ones.
Yes, I understand. Yes, 100%. So I almost look. This is not the politically correct answer, but I kind of keep this profit and loss statement, this mental process, this P&L statement on each one of my children. And sometimes I find, and I have to check in with them to kind of find out where their P&L is sitting, right? Mm-hmm. And I call it more of like an emotional P&L. I'm not, guys, if you're watching and listening to this, I don't actually have a document or Excel sheet that I do this, but this is just kind of this emotional P&L. And I know like some of my kids need a little bit more than others to stay in the positive part of their profit and loss statement.
They're emotional piggy banks.
Yes, like my son James. Yeah, he had a track meet the other day, and he came back and he lost, right? And and my other one had a track meet too, my oldest one, but she lost as well. But she was like, yeah, it was fun. We lost. I'm gonna try again next year, and it was maybe a few minutes with her to be like, okay, I'm good with it. But he kind of like owned this loss kind of throughout the entire day. So I realized for me to keep him balanced, I needed to give him a little more. But to your point, that's what you were saying. Like, not every kid's different. Every kid's different. Every parenting structure is different.
But that's the thing. But every parent is different. And that's what we need to realize, is that is okay. And your kids, as long as they know that they're loved, you are doing far better than 99% of the people in the world, because there's a lot of kids out there that don't know where their next meal's coming from. Sorry about that. Here we go. Okay, I'm glad we're recording and you can edit. Okay, here we go. Every parent is different, and every kid is different. I mean, and if you're showing your children love, and they feel secure and safe, right? It's that the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Then you're already doing better than like 95% of people in the world, because there are kids out there that don't know if their parents are coming home.
Yes.
They don't know what they're going to get from their parents. There's abuse. They don't know if they're going to have food on their table. And you know what? I was one of those kids, right? I was one of those kids that I didn't know if my parents were going to show up drunk, and I didn't know if I was cooking a meal or they were. I was one of those kids that didn't have that, the first thing of being secure and safe. Mm-hmm. So if you're able to make your kids feel secure and safe, you're ahead of the game. And so we just have to give ourselves a little bit of a break, and trust also in your parenting with the fact that the kids get it. And as long as you create that atmosphere and environment where they'll come talk to you. And one thing for us that's tried, tested, and true is that we have no secrets. So they know that no matter what, they can tell me anything, and I'm not going to yell at them, and I'm not going to freak out, but we're going to figure it out. So
awesome.
That they feel safe.
That's actually, I'll be honest. I'll be 100% honest. It's one place I struggle with. Like,
I'm really good at that. Like that, I've got down pat. I could be an expert in that.
That's awesome. But no, I kind of want to take the direction of what we're kind of talking about, these expectations, right? That we kind of put on ourselves. But I think it goes beyond just not the expectations that we put on ourselves, but it's the expectations that are put on us from social media. We got a chance to talk a little bit about this before we started recording these parenting influencers, and it's like.
But you mean the ones that actually birth 12 children and make it look super easy? Are you kidding me? Like how? And then all of a sudden they're skinny again, and they're dressed perfectly, and their birth pictures of their children are gorgeous. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I did not have that experience. There's no way.
No, but you know what? The funny thing is, we see this in business as well, right? We see these, I guess we call it the fake it till you make it, right? These business influencers that are jet setting across the world and driving the Lamborghinis and and going out to really fancy dinners and stuff like that. And people just have this real misconception that it's easy to be successful. not only in business, but also in parenting. And I'd love to get your thoughts on it.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you follow me on social media or anything like that, but if you do, you've probably realized I don't post anymore.
I did notice that there was a period you definitely stopped. Yes.
I very rarely post anymore. And the reason for that is I was starting to get caught up in the social media whirlwind of, this is what I have to do to be successful. I need to live up to being this person because this other person is doing it. And I was done, and not that I was ever fake, because I don't know how to be fake, but I was putting content out there that I thought people needed to hear, instead of living in the moments in my life and making my life good. And so I don't really post anymore, like, at all. I'm not saying social media is a bad thing, because I actually think it's a beautiful tool. And I think it's something that, I mean, even as a speaker and author, if you own a brand or a business, I mean, it's something it's a necessary evil. That's the best way to put it. It's a necessary evil. And I think it's a beautiful thing, but I think we get caught up in it. And not only do we get caught up in how we, follow people, but we get caught up in how we determine our lives should look because of what other people are doing.
Exactly.
And then we try to make our life their life, and we stop being real for ourselves. And then when we can't live up to what other people are doing, we get down on ourselves. And then, as we were saying, there are parents out there that make it look like easy, like.
But the thing is, they're not the ones making it look easy. It's the editing. It makes it look easy. Like, I mean, look, I have a large video team. We edit a lot of stuff. If you only saw half the crap that actually goes down when we go on site to shoot a video, like, I mean, I was just thinking, like, we went and did this video shoot recently for this brand new 3500 dually truck that just came out, and it's got 1,000 pounds of torque and all this other stuff. And like, the owner's like, I'm going to do the video. And I'm like, okay, sure, if you want, right? And, we record it. I bet you it's probably 37 minutes of ahs, oh shits. What the hell was I supposed to say? Can you stop smoking? We're trying to record a video here. And, by the time we're done, we send it back to him in this like 2-minute polished, beautiful piece. He calls me up and I'm going, oh my God, here it comes. He goes, you know what, Jason? I'm pretty good at these. I think we should do some more. And I'm like, Yes,
we should do some more. And you're going to edit the part out, but my phone totally rang, and I'm like, oh crap, I'm glad you're editing.
No, actually, I'm going to keep it in there. That's what we're going to do. We're going to keep the phone call in there. I'm actually, you know what? It's funny. I actually made a note to go back and edit that, and I'm actually going to delete that note. That we're going to leave it in.
And leave my terror of, oh my goodness, I'm so glad you're going to delete this.
But that's right though. I mean, look, what we're seeing is we're seeing an edited version of their life. We're seeing an edited version of their business. And, but it's like, I think for a lot of people out there, sorry, go ahead.
There's nothing wrong with that. I don't want people to watch this and be like, oh, we're telling them there's something wrong with what they're doing. There's nothing. It
depends, I think, what the intention is, though, right?
No, well, exactly. If it's something that's going to give you the result that you need, cool, awesome. But don't do it if it's going to if you're going to continue to bash your own life, you know what I mean? If you're going to look at it and try to be something you might not be, and or might not know that you don't want to be, right? But you've just be intentional. To your point, be intentional with what you do, how you spend your time, what's important to you, because otherwise you'll get lost in that whirlwind.
Yes, get lost in it.
You get lost in it. You just do. You get swept up.
It's so easy to kind of just get caught up in it, and then there's this series of what you do is you create the expectation. See, I was wondering at one point when I thought about this for a little while, I was like, is it the society, is it the social media that's putting the expectations on, or is it the way I'm processing the information and creating those expectations for myself? Like, I've been in business for this many years. Why don't I own a private jet? That kind of crap. But that's
it is how we. I totally hear you. It is how we process it and the expectations we put on ourselves. I mean, we have to take ownership of everything we do, right? Because we're the ones that make a choice. But then, like on the flip side, you'll have these gurus come out and say, well, in order to have a successful day, you shouldn't pick up your phone for the first 30 minutes. And so not all of a sudden you've gone from you have to answer emails all day long to, oh no, give yourself some peace and solitude. And so it's just, you're correct in saying it is how we process it. And again, it goes back to balance, right? Balance doesn't exist. So find what works for you. If laying in your bed while you're having a cup of coffee and scrolling through your emails before your kids get up is, good for you, then do it.
Yes.
And if it's not good for you because it puts you in a bad mood before your kids get up, then don't do it. So it's just really about what works for you and what's going to help you feel good, because once you feel good, you're going to have a successful day. If you feel like crap, your day's doomed anyways. So
that is so true in business as well, right? It's being self-aware. At the point in time during my business when I was letting my business run me and me not run my business, all right, I wasn't self-aware that was what was going on. And I'm thinking back, for what you just said, but also going back to the earlier discussions we had around parenting, without distractions, and also work-life balance. I think my understanding of how to do that doesn't necessarily mean I execute it perfectly every single time. I definitely don't.
Neither do I.
But it's because I become self-aware, that these things are going on. And I think that's kind of the first step to make those monster changes.
It's a first step for everything in life. So for, whether it's parenting, whether it's business, whether it's yourself, how you talk to yourself and your self-worth and your mental health and your emotional health and your physical health, all the things. We know what we need to do. We know what we should do. But a lot of the times we don't it's too scary to become self-aware of what's actually happening, like what our choices have led us to, because the number one thing that, to me, the scariest is looking in the mirror and saying, oh crap, I screwed up and nobody's going to fix it but me. That is literally the scariest thought for any human, because the first thing we do is blame it on someone else or something else. And so
we bring the phone, we blame the social media. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. We blame how busy our life is. We blame, we eat unhealthy because we don't have enough time. And I don't eat unhealthy because it's important to me and I'm intentional about it. And I do yoga every day because it's important to me and I'm intentional about it. That doesn't mean I'm better than anybody. It just means that's what's important to me, and that's what my intention is. So,
and that's your balance. See,
that's
my
what
balance.
I'm trying to say.
That's your balance, and those are the things.
I am not a fun person to be around if I don't do yoga.
I'm sure if you don't probably eat, if you don't eat well, and because I know the same way. I've changed my diet a little bit. If I go back, I'm like full on hangry. Like I'm just get out of my way.
And if I don't have a coffee, before don't talk to me. Forget it. Don't talk to me. I need that.
It's us. It's being self-aware. It's being balanced. Look, Katie, I know we're getting towards the tail end of our time today, and but this has been so much fun.
It has been. It's so nice to finally reconnect. The last time we connected, we were in your office.
I know. It was back in the real world, right?
How many years ago? Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Hey, but for everyone out there that's watching, listening right now, would love to kind of connect with you and kind of follow along with your journey. What's the best way to do so?
Yeah, so you can try me on social, but I don't really post anymore. At Katie Maras, I have started to love fly fishing. So if you want to see some of the cool fish I've caught, that's where I'm posting. It's called Katie on the Fly. So it's Katie_on_the fly. And it's awesome. I think that's far more exciting because, it's a cool new thing to do. And very few women do it. So it's really, I think it's super exciting. But honestly, you can email me too, katie@katiemaras.com. If you have questions or you just want to say hi, the one thing about me is I'm here to just chat with anybody and everything. So I'm not out selling anything. I'm not here saying, hey, book me as your next speaker. I literally just want to I've got a lot of life experience. And so I'm here for anybody that may need to just air out their grievances, because that is half the battle. If you have 100%. Somebody to talk to, it takes half of the word I'm looking for, the scariness away and the intensity of the feeling away. So just the only thing I can say is you're doing great. You're doing your very best. And in anything, life, business, parenting. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, talk to somebody, because that's what allows you to see clearly.
That's right. We can't we're not gonna run successful businesses on our own. We're not gonna be successful parents on our own. You know, there are so many correlations there. Katie, I can't tell you how much I just appreciate you being real. I know you always were. I was totally expecting that, and your openness and just your authenticity. I'm so glad we had a chance to connect and do this podcast. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
You want some real life? You know where I'm off to right now? Work-life balance or whatever. Yeah. I'm going to get my hair done.
There you go.
There you go.
Thank you, Katie. You have yourself an amazing day.
All right, take care.
Thanks for tuning in to the Business of Parenting podcast with your host, Jason Harris. Don't want to miss new content? Be sure to check out the full podcast library at strategywithjason.com to stay in the know. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.